if you learn these good habits and understand how you're spending, then you can do better and you spend less and you spend with intent, and then can take that extra money that you didn't spend going out and having a nice night out every Tuesday, let's say, that you can put towards that credit card to pay it off.
Right. And that's exactly what I was thinking about, Nancy. Welcome to Daily Power Boost, Ignite Your Potential, the podcast where your transformation begins. I'm Sean Michael, and each day I'll bring you quick, impactful insights and action steps to fuel your personal and professional growth. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone ready to break limits and ignite greatness, this is your daily power boost to crush obstacles, stay focused, and awaken the extraordinary potential within you. Because remember, greatness begins within. Let's go. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Daily Power Boost. Today on Beyond the Boost, I'm excited to welcome Nancy Ward, a financial coach and creator of weeklydebtplan.com. Nancy, welcome. Would you tell us a
Thank
little about
you.
yourself?
Well, I started up as a coach in 2021 because I realized being in debt was not fun in my past life. And I wanted to help other people. There's a certain stigma when it comes to money, and people don't really want to talk about it. But I really felt that the weekly debt plan, and I'll explain that in a second here, was really something I wanted to let everybody know about, because if I could do it, you can do it. As a single mom, now with 2 kids, 10 years ago, I figured out a way to manage my finances a lot easier, because when I was married, it was no big deal. You had an income, we had our bills, we had our life. And I obviously, when I went into the divorce, after the divorce, I said, "Oh gosh, I'm going back into debt just because of where I was with my finances." Being a stay-at-home mom, you don't have that much money and you had to go find a job, you get the support, but you still have expenses. So what I realized with the weekly debt plan was, if I had a bill that came in, I'm gonna just example as my refrigerator. I needed to buy a new refrigerator. I went to Lowe's to buy it. They had a program going on where if I got their credit card, it'd be 0% for the next 24 months. Easy math for me, because it was around $2,400, including tax and in warranty. And so for 24 months, I had to pay $2,400. That's $100 a month. Pretty much easy math. But what happens to us all is that the time that the bill is due never seems to correspond with the paycheck that comes in every single month. So a lot of people get paid twice a month, or excuse me, every other week. They get paid every other week. And then what happens is it doesn't match up to when the rent's due and when the car payment's due and so forth. So I ended up sending out $25 a week out of my bank account. $25 is nothing in the grand scheme of things. Then I didn't have to think about, did I get my bill paid on time? Because my minimum payment was $49. I was paying $25 a week. You do the math, at least $100 a month. I overextended on my minimum payment, and I was paying down the principal, because this kind of loan was a percentage deferred. So what would end up happening is, if you didn't pay it off by that end of the 24 months, you had to pay interest from day one, not
Mhm.
whatever the balance was. It was from day one. So I just decided to get out there and let people know that there's other ways to reduce your credit cards without budgeting. And that it's such a hard word, to budget, because people are like, yeah, I tried it and then it didn't work and then I quit and I'm still in debt. There's something to be said about that, because budgeting just gives you too much constraints, and then you feel guilty and you're kicking yourself going, "Man, I blew my budget." Well, sometimes this life happens.
Yes. Well, and I love that you brought that up. And I know exactly what you're talking about with that, 24 months, same as cash. I had so many friends that fell into that trap.
Mhm.
They didn't get the balance paid by the end of the time frame. 6 months, same as cash, 1 year, 24 months. That was a sweet deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you hadn't made the deadline, that would have hurt a lot. Like, because I think
Right.
the longer the time frame, that's going to mean a lot more interest tacked on. Because, like you said, it starts day one from
Right.
when you
Versus if
borrowed
you
the
did like
money.
a balance transfer for 0%. Let's say it was that 2,400 again, you did a balance transfer for 0%, and at the end of those 2 years, you still had $500 left. Well, it would just be 25.99% on the $500, not on the whole amount. So that is something really to be cautious when you're getting into these agreements with creditors, to make sure that you understand the rules of how to pay them back.
For sure. Yeah. Because, like you said, as 0%, it doesn't factor back to day one. It's whatever balance is still there when it activates again.
Yeah, so
Now,
just reading the fine lines,
yes.
fine print.
So you said budgeting and you mentioned about budgeting, like it's kind of one of those words that it's like a dirty word to people. I've
Yep.
tried it, didn't work. They felt guilty because, they couldn't follow it.
Mhm.
We could even say you've made budgeting feel human again.
Yes, yes. I approach budgeting in a different way because I like data analytics. It's always been in my brain. It's one of those superpowers I have. I can't get around it. It's just ingrained in my brain. What I look at is category spending. And what I like about that too is that when I'm working with my clients, we review this month, last month, the last 3 months, the last 6 months, if we really wanna dive deep, to say, "Okay, I need you to go on your credit card or your bank statement," and luckily, all of this information is online if you don't have a consolidated app like, Money Monarch or, You Need a Budget or Quick and Simplify. If you don't have one of those, you don't have to have one of those, but you can go onto your credit card. Okay, American Express, tell me what my spending was for this past month. And if you say, hey, I put everything on my credit card because I get, miles points or whatever the reason why you have that card, you can look at that and look at that spending. So as I'm working with a client, we're looking at those categories. Hey, you spent $500 this month on automobile. That could be above what you were expecting to pay for the month. Oh, yeah, I had to get new tires. I had to have an oil change. We were going out of town. Needed to get the car repaired before we did that. Great. Okay, so let's look at the other months. Where were you spending? Oh, I was only spending about $250 a month. Okay, great. So then the client can look at that and see the trends and say, oh my gosh, I am spending $700 a month on groceries. It's a realization that people look into because they don't want to budget. It's just like dieting. You want to enjoy the cookies. You want to enjoy the big juicy burger. You're not thinking about the impact of what that juicy burger is going to do on your diet, on your organs, any of those types of things. You're just saying, "Oh, this is good." Just like when you make that purchase. So, coming back to that, to the category spending, the clients realize I need to make a change. It's not me saying you need to make a change, which nobody wants to hear. You don't
Nobody
even wanna
wants,
say it
yeah.
to your Right, you don't
Nobody
even
wants
wanna
to
say
be
it to
told what to
yourself.
do, even if it's
Right,
yourself telling you what to do.
right, it's like, "I wanna enjoy the cookies, darn it." Well, yeah, but just keep in mind, if you eat 1 cookie versus 17 or the whole box of Girl Scout cookies, mm, it's not gonna be you don't feel the pain now, you feel it later when you start gaining weight or you're having health issues. Same thing as spending with money is that what you spend today, if you don't pay it off at the end of the billing cycle, you're tipping the credit card 29% because you didn't pay it off. So you're
Right.
paying all this extra fees for nothing, just
And
for the
those
convenience of not paying off the bill.
and the points just got, like, any value of any points or miles you got was just erased.
Possibly, yes. Yeah, because if you're getting $50 cash back on your Discover, but your interest fee was $169, you're not making out. I
Right.
know in our head we're thinking, I'm getting cash back. But if you're not looking at the numbers,
Right.
that
Well,
that's where I come in to say, "Hey, let me help you look at these numbers. Let me help you understand the numbers. Let me data crunch them, but I want you to at least have a 30,000-foot view of what your numbers are, and for you to go, "Wow, I spent $750 grocery shopping this month," or "I spent $1,000 on dining out, and it's only me and my husband. How the
right.
heck did we spend $1,000?" So then that person can make the change, because you're not gonna be with a financial coach the rest of your life, but if you learn these good habits and understand how you're spending, then you can do better and you spend less and you spend with intent, and then can take that extra money that you didn't spend going out and having a nice night out every Tuesday, let's say, that you can put towards that credit card to pay it off.
Right. And that's exactly what I was thinking about, Nancy. Like when you were talking about the cookies and the burgers and cakes, my wife made me peanut butter chocolate cake. It's one of my favorites. Actually, she made it for a friend that wanted it, and she made me
Mhm.
my own version. And
Oh,
then the friend left me a quarter of her cake because she didn't want to take the whole thing home because she knew she'd eat it.
right.
But I love that you said with intention. It's
Yeah.
being mindful, right? Enjoy the cookie, have that nice meal out. But the problem, especially as we've gone digital with money,
Yes.
is if you're not taking active measures like writing it down, reviewing your statements, calculating, like you said, calculating category spending and
Mhm.
go, and then you don't see the patterns because you're just like, you know,
Tap and pay, tap and
tap and
pay.
pay, tap and pay, tap and pay. And it's like all of a sudden I have this bill and it's like $400 in interest for the month
Yep.
because you overdid it. Um,
Mhm.
it's about being mindful, right? We can enjoy that burger. We can enjoy that cookie. We can spend and buy new tires or eat out 5 times a week. Just being aware of it, right?
Right.
Doing it with intention, with mindfulness, and
Right,
being aware that
and on
there's
the
a
flip. Go ahead.
being aware that there is a trade-off. It's not about feeling guilty, but it's about like there's a price.
Right, and let's say you are on a diet and you're trying to count calories, or you're trying to watch what you eat. Just like any I mean, I've had MyFitnessPal for years. So, I can plug in what I eat, I can plug in what I do for exercise, and the more I exercise, the more calories I have in order that would offset my food. So, if you had that piece of cake, I hope you didn't eat the whole quarter of that cake,
Not all in
but
once.
exactly. But that's the thing, is, like, if you feel guilty about eating that cake, hopefully you're gonna say to yourself, "All right, I'm out of here. I'm taking a walk for the next hour. I'm burning this off." Same thing. It's the sacrifice that you're gonna make to say, "Okay, we had a great dinner. You know what? It was for our anniversary. We enjoyed it. And you know what? We just need to cut out this and this and this over the next month, so then we don't feel bad about how much we spent."
Right.
If
Well,
that makes
and
sense.
that,
Yeah.
with the food analogy here, I think of like when we used to go camping, my
Mhm.
wife was, she uses Fitness Pal too. And she does just like you said, okay, do some exercise, do some Zumba or go for a walk. Or now she's skating 30 minutes a day.
Ooh, okay.
Um, but it's like putting deposits so that you can take extra withdrawals.
Right.
But when we were camping, because she wanted s'mores, she would plan, like she would say, okay, s'mores is this many calories, and she would reverse engineer her eating the so that she could stay within her budget of calories and enjoy that s'more with no
Exact.
guilt.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
the same with spending. And you mentioned some of the apps.
Yes.
Um, my wife she's actually using Chat GPT, and she's got notebooks and plans, and like, this is my copy of her notes, like writing, like you said, taking it,
Yeah.
we get paid, we get our earnings weekly. So we plan out everything weekly. Like, we looked at everything as a month, because I can't send the landlord rent every week.
Right. But you can send it to your savings account and
Send it
then
to a savings account. Yeah.
there
Make
you go.
sure that it's ready and waiting
Yep.
when rent day comes.
Right.
Um, or other, and making sure, like, okay, this week, looking at the bills, okay, this card payment is due. Like, I put my phone service on a card, and then it's set up to auto pay. That's the only thing that
Right.
goes on that one card. That card pays the phone bill. I put the money in, or make sure the money's in the bank, and the bank pays it's all
Mhm.
automatic.
Right.
But I had this idea. I think part of it was talking to you, Nancy. Was like, what if there was an app where I could see all my credit cards,
Mhm.
my due dates, my payments, my balance. So I went, because I think there was Gemini. They were saying, Gemini, you can get it to write code for an app really easy, or something like that. And it said, well, there's already some apps like da 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 da. Some of those, like, one was Mint, which
I know. Which
doesn't
is closed
exist
down.
anymore. It's
I know.
been absorbed in somewhere else. Check
It
out
was a good
why
app, by the way.
check out You Need a Budget. I checked out
Yes.
You Need a Budget. I'm like, I'm a smart guy on tech, and I'm like, dude, this is overwhelming. Yeah, I can see my credit cards and balance or payment dates and all that. I'm like,
Yeah.
but like the whole system, I'm like, I can, like, I don't have time for that.
Mhm.
You got to have a computer science degree. I feel like.
Yes. Yes. And I know that it's can be challenging at times, especially if that's not how your brain works, let's say. Um, I can remember dates so easily. It just pops in my head because they are numbers based. But
Hmm.
when I was married, my husband was like, la 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 la. I'm like, oh no, we can't. That's Thursday and we have this and then this and this. He's like, how do you know that all? I'm like, I don't know. It's just in my head. I I'm good at that stuff. It's a super talent that, nobody wants to hire me for, but it's like I have that extra talent for that, keeping that information in my head. So that's the other thing too, is that if when you have a system that works for you, so whether you're writing things down or you're putting it into a digital calendar, you need to find the right thing that works for you.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I had a friend, he was going to buy a Bible, and he says, which translation should I get? And I looked him straight in the eye, and I said, the one you read, right? No need to
Right.
get all caught up in all the, there's this one that does this and this one. The
Yeah.
one that works for you, as you just said, the one that fits you, your style. I know what you're saying about numbers, like dates, like most of the planning and the scheduling, my wife does that, because I find that women, like, as far as, oh, next Thursday is this, and the week after that is this, like, women do that.
Looking
Do
at the
what works
calendar.
for you. Yeah. Or
Yep.
the
Do what works for
dates.
you.
Yeah. Dates, you know, trying to remember the schedule. Like I remember, I don't fit the stereotype where husbands forget the anniversary or your wife's birthday. I remember that stuff. But I also, like, I was working with a guy, and he's like, oh, I need to buy this. We were technicians for building automation. He's like, I need to get this part for this job. I'm like, oh, that's an ABC 1 2 3. He looks at me, he's like, you just rattled that part number out of your head. I said,
Mhm.
yeah. I said, but I can't remember where I left my screwdriver 5 minutes ago.
Exactly, exactly.
Or
And some people like the paper format, some people like to have it on their calendar. And then there's other people who like to just set it up on auto pay, just like you'd mentioned about your one credit card. you know that it's always on auto pay. It takes the same amount of money out, or plus or minus, depending on, with taxes and things like that, or different charges. But to
Hmm.
have that on auto pay can also be helpful. So it takes it right out of your bank account. The disadvantage is if you're not watching your numbers and all of a sudden this $400 payment comes out and you've got $20 in your bank account right before payday.
Right.
And
And you
that,
need
that,
groceries.
mhm,
You don't
and
find out because you looked. You found out because you were trying to buy groceries.
well, and gone are the days, like, and we talked about the tap and pay earlier, but it's like gone are the days where you had a checkbook, you put in exactly how much you got as a deposit, and then you wrote checks, or if you did do an online bill pay, you'd put that into the register. Well, now with the onset of debit cards, it's great for people who say, "Oh, I don't wanna charge extra money," like you said. "I'm gonna find out if I don't have money in my bank account when I go buy groceries," but then that puts it into another budgeting situation where if you don't have a budget for your groceries and
Hmm.
then you go and to buy something large and you don't have that money, the next thing that people do is they go to the credit card. So it also depends on the person whether or not they have credit cards or debit cards, but that's the other challenge too, is that you've got transactions that are coming out of your debit card. And if you have a spouse or partner who is going into that same bank account, that can be a little bit of a mess. And that's why looking at the numbers, knowing your numbers, and then even writing them down or printing them out is just so helpful to visualize it. And that's going to help a lot as far as not having those late fees or bounced fees or anything where you're like, "Oh my gosh, I desperately need gas in my car and I have no money." It's like, you know, I would
Right.
hope
Yeah.
that people don't get stuck in that situation, but there are some who do.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to being intentional, to being paying attention, being aware of what's going on. Because I was thinking as you were talking about this, you money's gone in the account because you were tap and pay with your debit card. But I also think like you set up a payment for something from your bank
Mhm.
account, and there's a little bit, they've gotten much faster. I will say that, it's much faster now, but there's a delay before that pulls. And if you're
Yes.
not paying attention and you're just swiping your debit card and then that payment goes, and then, like you said, there's extra fees because
Yeah.
it's a return payment. And if you look at the disclaimers on any of the cards, they get you there. It
Mhm.
gets you. Return check
Right.
fees. Um, and I think the other factor is you can get in a legal trouble with that, not just paying the extra fees.
Right. Because what's going to end up happening is some places won't want to take your debit card because you're having so many issues with overdrawn funds.
Right. Or like what I experienced when we were young, we were young, uneducated because they don't teach this in school, right? And good parents teach it to their kids. Average parents don't. Um, I remember when I first got married, you mentioned the checkbook and it totally came to mind. I put her on the account, gave her the checkbook. I'm like, okay, I got to go. I was in the Navy. I shipped out for 6 months. I'm overseas.
Right, right.
And she's 18 and she's never had a checkbook. And, she's writing checks. Oh, I got to pay the rent. She's writing checks. And then she's like, Dad, help.
Yeah.
I got a notice from the bank or something. He's
Mm.
like, okay, let me go through the register with you. And she's reading off transactions or checks she's written. And he's like, wait, 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 stop. You ran out of money 5 transactions ago, honey.
But I have checks. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was always the joke is that when you end your checkbook, it's like, "Okay, I'm out of money."
Well, and I even remember comedians talking about it, like,
Mhm.
we're coming to repossess your car for lack of payment. Like, I can't pay you. You don't got a check or something? Oh, a check? Okay.
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is the hard part, is that so many of us grew up maybe getting habits from our parents or from other people or not realizing it. I mean, when I graduated high school, went to college right after, I walked in the Commons and, AT&T said, "Hey, would you like to start up a credit card with a calling card?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's gonna cost me money in order to call home because I didn't have a cell phone. I'd have to call collect to my parents." And I was like, "Sure, I'll take that. Oh, and I get a T-shirt too?"
Mm-hmm.
But I actually here in the state of Ohio, as a student who's graduating class of 2026 and beyond, that is a requirement for graduation is to take a financial literacy class. Whether or not they know how to write in their checkbook, because again, gone are the days of the checkbook. They can look at it on their app and say, "Oh, I've got money," because they have a part-time job. If they get the debit card, at least that's good that when they take the debit,
Mm-hmm.
they can still look at their bank account and say, "Oh, I still have $1,100 left. Oh, I still have $1,000 left." And then, of course, they get paid from their job. So it's also teaching them how to use the credit card efficiently and saying, if you still don't have the money, you don't go beyond that because you're going to have to pay them extra money. And as I said earlier, we're all in a negative tipping culture. Nobody wants to tip. It's like, what? I'm telling you what to put on my Chipotle or on my Subway sandwich, and then you're still asking me for a tip for what? I did your job for you. That's the standing joke. So if you're upset about the tipping there, guess what? You're tipping that credit card every single month. And
Right.
then
Or your
it.
bank because you got an overdraft fee or something like that.
Right. And the bad part too, not really bad part, but like the negative side effects of it is that as an 18-year-old going to school, going to college, whatever, they're starting to get credit card offers in the mail. And because they don't have a credit established, hey, here's a $500 card or $1,000 card. And if they start off early by charging on the card and not paying it off and only paying the minimum, they're starting that cycle from a very young age and not realizing what they're walking into.
Right.
So you're exactly right.
So that leads perfectly to this. What would you say is the biggest myth about debt that keeps people stuck?
What is the biggest debt that
The biggest
keeps
myth about debt.
okay. I think that the biggest myth that people have is that you'll eventually get it paid off. And I'm sending in my payment of $250. That's going to help me pay down my credit card. And actually, $100 is going to the principal and $140 is going to the finance charges. And every month they're sending in that $250 and thinking, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? It's like, well, you're close to max, and every month they're still charging you that $150 interest fee that if you
Mm-hmm.
would actually pay more down and put a $400 payment towards it, the next month it might not be $150 in interest, it might be $140 in interest. Keep sending that $400 and then you're actually working with the principal. So people are assuming that paying the minimum payment is going to help them reduce their credit card debt, and it won't.
Right. Or even just a little, oh, well, I put in mail more than the minimum payment.
Right, but 10 or $20 isn't gonna get you far. If
No,
you
it's
really wanna focus on it, start putting 100,
right. Yeah, you've
an
got to
extra 100 every single month,
I was
and
thinking of paying too low, like paying a minimum or just above minimum
mhm,
is like trying to fight a forest fire with a garden hose.
exactly. Yep, because 'cause you're not getting to the root of the problem, but also too, the other root of the problem is, "Oh, I've maxed this one out, but I've got another credit card I can spend money on and buy more stuff."
Mhm.
And if you're not controlling your spending, just like you're not controlling your eating, your pants are going to start feeling a little tight there.
Mm-hmm.
And just like dieting, you can't lose 20 pounds in a week. You cannot lose $1,000, $2,000 in a week unless you got a bonus from work. So it slowly creeps up to get to that point, and then it does slowly take time in order to bring it back down, unless you have extra money tucked away or reduce your spending.
Right. It's just like the fitness pal, right? Make more, make more deposits, do some more exercise, more activity to get more bonus calories, or reduce the outgo.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the two. No matter how many years we've had financial systems, make more, spend less. Right.
Yes.
With fitness, move more, eat less. Um. So
And
you go ahead.
I was gonna say, and a lot of people don't really want to do that until they get to that point and go, I need to make a change.
Right. They realize they're buried, right? Or the pants are too tight. Like you said. Um so if someone's actually, and let's go back. So the key thing is that I keep replaying in my head and I keep hearing is it's about being aware,
Hmm.
right? It's about knowing what we're spending, knowing where the money's going, knowing how much money is really there in the bank account or whatever. Um, which is what you do, right? Is you're helping them get the big picture. Like this is what the reality is.
Yes. And then it's action thereafter.
Right.
Because
Taking
just because
action.
you stepped on the scale and you said, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, well, how much do you weigh right now? You step on the scale and say, okay, this is what I weigh. 20 pounds less is this amount, this amount. That's my goal. Great.
Right.
But your other goals should be you're doing this for your health. You're doing it so you can feel better in your clothes. Just because you eat a little bit differently and take a walk doesn't mean you're going to get rid of the flab. You might have to do some other exercises. So just because you want to reduce your debt, it doesn't just mean, okay, I'm going to spend less or make more money. As we talked about before, making these purchases with intentions or saving money with intention, because it's not just drinking the water, watching your food intake and exercise. There's a whole bunch of other things that go with it. Same as with your debt and watching what you're spending, and maybe have a garage sale this summer and get rid of some stuff or put it on eBay. Find other ways to reduce and change habits, because that's what's going to help you with your financial future.
Right. And the other thing is we have to remember that the problem we didn't wake up one morning with a mountain of debt or, pants too tight. It took time to get there. It's going to take time to unravel it and undo it.
Hmm. Hmm.
But so where does someone who's hit that limit and they're like, okay, I don't know what to do. My finances are a mess. I should probably hire a coach like Nancy. Where do they start?
Well, the first start is stepping on that scale. It's looking at the numbers and having that 30,000 foot view, writing down all of those debts, writing down all of those loans. You might have a loan that's for a family member, and you're not looking at that as a regular piece of debt, because, if you don't pay it this month, Auntie Joan won't mind if I have to skip a payment, but
Right.
Discover will. So it's just having the clarity of knowing where you're at and where you want to go and how do you want to do it. So I help more with the how, because you can take that notepad you just showed me, pull it out and write down every single bill that you have and when is it due, and put it on the calendar and have it visually. But having that accountability or somebody to help you understand it is really the next step, is like the personal trainer. I want to lose this weight, here and here and here. I know how to use the machines, but I know a personal trainer will help me understand the machines and help me have the right habits in order to use the machines and dieting and so forth.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned accountability, because accountability is really big for me. In
Right.
fact, Monday night, I actually did a LinkedIn live called Knock Out Your Excuses. And it was about, you
Yeah.
know, eh, taking some personal accountability about life, about decisions, but also engaging. And tomorrow we're launching inside of our community, we're launching I'll be hosting an accountability space where the community
Oh,
members can come in, and we've
nice.
got a shared spreadsheet where people can put what they're working on. We can check in and hold each other accountable. It's super powerful. Like you said, a personal trainer, a coach, somebody who's checking in and actually cares and
Yeah.
will say, "Hey, did you do the thing you said you were going to do?" Right?
Right. And there's
You were
also
supposed
no
to have a
judgment
garage
or
sale
yeah,
this weekend.
right. And there's no judgment or guilt behind it either, because we all know life happens. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of us out there who are an all or nothing, and then, "Oh, I didn't do my garage sale. Alright, that's it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just" and then you get huff and puff and you're mad at yourself. That's okay. Life happens. Okay, great. So instead of doing that, what are you gonna do otherwise? Or, you know, I missed a week because my kids were sick, or whatever the case may be. But having that accountability and having those regular check-ins, whether they're weekly or biweekly, monthly, it doesn't matter, because you're right. Somebody on the other side is rooting for you. They are your cheerleader, whether it is a business buddy or it's a coach that you're paying for their services. You need to have that in your system in order to help you move the needle. That's so important.
Well, and I think from my own experience, if you have the self accountability,
Mhm,
or even, with your partner, if you're in a good place with your partner, you can hold each other accountable and keep everything on track.
mhm.
But I think the other thing about having a mentor, a coach, etc., can help amplify the efforts, right? Because
Yes.
alone, even with your friends or a trusted family member, you can do a lot. And whether it's getting finances under control or getting our waistline under control, it doesn't matter. We can get people around us that we know to help, but coaches, mentors, they know kind of the shortcuts, to skip over that step a little bit. Not that you can skip steps, but they can illuminate the path better. How's
And
that?
provide education too, because, well, why am I doing this? Or why shouldn't I do this? You don't really know, and you go ask Google and you get a whole bunch of ugh and ads and junk in there. It's like, I want my question answered that I've been thinking about for a while. Why is it important to, let's say, pay that bill at the beginning of the billing cycle instead of when the payment's due? Well, you might cut off some of that interest fees because you've reduced the amount of debt when the new billing cycle comes out.
Right.
So that's where education is really elevating you. Yeah, I mean, let's just put the bright lights on when you instead of just illuminating the path, it's the bright lights that are gonna pop
Right.
on when
The
you're working with a
spotlight. Yeah.
coach. Right, because they're teaching you the reasons why, versus just, "You should do this," or, "This is a good habit." Well, why should I do it? Because it's gonna accomplish X, Y, and Z.
Right. And that's the truth
Yeah.
about a coach,
Yeah.
is whatever kind of coach you could do, like, and a good coach will give you all the information how to do it.
Yep.
But when you actually engage with a coach, that's when, you start to see this exponential
Yes.
shift. Now, here's a question. In your experience working with clients, do you think self-worth has any role in financial patterns?
Oh, yes. Um, because if you grew up in a household where you were always told no, all of a sudden you get paid and you're like, well, now I have my own money. I can buy whatever I want. Whether they felt worthy of buying something or having something, their parents controlled it. So now they're as an adult and they're buying it, but then there's also that extra trap that happens where you're buying all this stuff, you have all this stuff in your house, you might have good intentions and then it just doesn't go anywhere. And then yeah, you're asking yourself, why did I buy that? I can't believe I did that. Now I'm in this big situation and it's just that continual cycle mentally of I got to make a change, and then you feel like you're not worth buying that new top or that new pair of shoes because you feel so bad that I've been spending so much. I mean, it can have some psychological patterns,
Mm-hmm.
but going back to what we talked about before is having intentional spending. And, to be fair, you can only wear one pair of shoes at a time. But I digress. That putting your money intentionally into what you want, or if it's not necessarily the spending, but it's putting it into a fund for an emergency fund, vacation fund, house repair fund, you've got to have that sacrifice to go to the things that you really want in this stage of your life today. Don't beat yourself up about what you bought 5, 10, 15 years ago. It's not going to help you.
Right. It's just going to
Yeah,
feed the fire, basically,
exactly.
the negative cycle. Well, and I was also, what came to mind is, by becoming more aware of what we're spending
Mhm.
and taking a step back and go, is it really me that wants this? Is there really a benefit for me?
Yeah.
Or am I just like my son? He's like, I want a Lamborghini. I'm like, okay, how many videos has he saw about Lambos? I'm like, he's 7, to him, Lambo
Yeah.
sounds cool. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I try to explain to him, I'm like, you live in Guatemala where the road is full of potholes, and most of the roads you're lucky to do 45 on, and they have what they call sleeping policemen. So you can be doing 45, 50 miles an hour on a road, a highway going to another city, and you don't see the sign that you came into a town or the sign that tells you there's a speed bump on the road. And so
Wow.
you catch air going over. Because I'm not talking the speed bumps like at the local mall that are, you know, perfectly angled so you can go over. And we're talking like rip your tranny out speed bumps sometimes. You can hit them at the minimum speed. I have a Ford F-350 and I've come to them, and like if I just put the car in drive, it will roll forward. The truck will. Like,
Mhm.
there's enough movement. The speed bump will stop it. It will
Wow.
stop it cold without hitting the accelerator. Like if I don't hit and I have to hit the accelerator, like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe how much acceleration it took to get over that thing. I'm like, Lambo is not practical here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want, like, I used to have a Scion XB, loved it in the US. It's great, really efficient on gas, very comfortable.
Yeah.
No way would I want it here
Mhm.
because very low riding.
That's what I'm thinking, like, the Lamborghini is maybe, like, a few inches, off the ground? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is not, but yeah, it's about awareness and looking at the context. I want to look at, so financial challenges
Mhm.
are one, I think they cause or they lead to a lot of breakups and fighting
Yes. Mhm.
in marriages. Also, like the story you shared of, what set you on this journey of getting divorced and trying to raise kids. And I thought of my own story. My mom had no education and 4 kids, and my dad child support allotment that he was given was like $400 a month for 4 kids. And my mom was making minimum wage.
Right.
So we struggled. Actually, when I turned 18, my credit was damaged because the phone company wouldn't give her service anymore. So she just said, I'll put it in my kid's name.
Wow.
And then killed my record. So when I got out on my own and like my wife's like, oh, let's go get phone service for the new apartment. Phone company says, oh, you need to pay this back debt bill. And my wife's like,
What?
what bill? I'm like, oh yeah, that was my mom. But how what's your best advice to help couples kind of find some financial alignment?
So first would be to step on the scale together and to look at all the bills. And I know that I've heard the stories of, my husband goes and gets lottery tickets every single week and so forth. I'm sure that you, as the wife, because obviously I was friends with the wife, that you probably spend some money on something that he may not approve. And in that case, that's where you can have your fun money fund. So you might say, okay, here's the list. We have to pay the rent and the car payment and the electricity and all this other stuff. And each one of us will get an allotted an amount that we can take out of the bank account. Let's say $50, $100, make it easy, right? So if you're both taking out $100 a month, you go spend that on whatever you want. You don't have to tell the other person if this is the negotiation that you want to make with your spouse is so if he wants to buy his lottery tickets, he has $100 budget basically. If she wants to go get her nails done or hair done, she has $100 budget. That's one thing that's really helpful. And when I was raising the kids and they were small and in diapers, I would hear so many times that the ladies would talk about, my husband's yelling at me about buying groceries and I'm spending $150. Well, 25 of it is just for a box of diapers and 25 of it is for formula. And then I go buy toilet paper and paper towels and my bill's up to $75. It's like, yeah, that's hard. And it's like, then these women have to feel like they have to justify what they spent at the grocery store because they're not going to work every day, but yet the husband is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's having these open conversations to nip those things in the bud and say, hey, this week we need more diapers and we need more formula. It's going to cost $50 because they get scrutinized about what they're buying. It might be the woman has the spending habit. It might be the man has a spending habit, but you need to have that communication to talk about things and bring up those big expenses. I know that when I was married, I think it was maybe $200 or $300. If we wanted to buy something above and beyond, we would let each other know. Hey, I want to go buy a digital camera. It's going to cost $500. But I would have the conversation with him. But if I went and I bought, 2 pairs of shoes for my kids and it cost $75, I just needed to buy it because the kids were, kids are kids. They're growing all the time. They need
Mm-hmm.
new shoes. So find out where that riff is and have that open communication, because the more communication you have with your spouse, the better. And be on the same plan as far as how are we going to spend and or how are we going to pay off the bills. So having just communication is really the key.
Yeah, it really is in every aspect.
For sure.
In and not just in romantic or marital relationships, like
Right.
communication is so critical in every relationship and in life. And, I can connect it to being aware and spending mindfully is communication with our finances, with
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
bank account, right?
Yeah,
Not
you're having a
necessarily
better
not
relationship.
necessarily our account, not
Right.
necessarily communication with the bank, but with our banking account.
Right. It's having a better relationship with money because what you've done over the last how many years is you've spent, but didn't have the money to pay for it. And then you're blaming who that you have credit card debt? You should be blaming yourself
Right.
because you're the one who spent all those things in order to put yourself in debt. So I can see where a little bit of tension between, yeah, people.
Yes. So, last big question.
Okay.
What does financial freedom really mean to you? And what do you think most people get wrong about it?
I think financial freedom to most people is they don't have credit card debt and they make more than they spend. But reality is having everything in their place of what they would want. So let's go back to that anniversary dinner I was talking about earlier. And you decide that you and your wife are going to have a few couple of friends with you in order to enjoy that dinner. Financial freedom to me is that you can say, you know what, guys, you didn't bring us gifts. We didn't want gifts. Your gifts to us were the time that you spent with us tonight. I'm picking up the bill. And having in the back of your mind, knowing I can spend that $350 on one night's bill and not lose sleep over it. Because that's what the priority was with your money of where you wanted to spend it. And you are in a solid place. Your mortgage still may not be paid off, doesn't matter, but you're in a solid place where you can feel comfortable spending that and not guilting yourself going, man, I really can't afford this. That's what I feel like financial freedom is that you have the power to choose when and what you want to buy, and you're not stressing out on every single purchase.
And I would agree, because I grew up in that environment where it's like, if we, for example, we buy you new shoes for school, then we're eating beans and rice for the next month. Right. It was always, we
Right.
can't afford that. Um, we talked about the money mindset is huge. And
Mhm.
actually, I was reading a book, and the first half was more about being more open for money coming in. But the second half of the book was breaking your money addiction. He actually called it a money addiction
I would agree. Some
as a
people have it.
blocking force, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's and I know, like, my goal is like high end, high achievers. That's my target. But I know there's a lot of average people that are struggling. They're, so that the idea of what you first shared, the common financial freedom is I can fly first class anytime I want and everything's paid off. I've got, you know, but the reality is there's a lot of people in the world they have the second version that you said, where they still have a mortgage, they have a car loan, you know, but they can spend to buy dinner for their friends or take little Johnny on the dream vacation to Disney World, or,
Mhm.
that romantic getaway in Bali, whatever, and not go, what, and whew,
What were you gonna pay for it?
because I
Right.
think that leads to this overwork trap, right? The hustle culture. Like I got to hustle hard to have the nice things I want, to pay for all those things that, or the everyday things, the rising cost of diapers and formula, kids are expensive, or
Yes.
college.
Mhm.
College expenses are insane. Um, all right. So where's can you share where listeners can get started if they want to get started on this journey of towards financial freedom as we just defined it, to get finances in control?
Definitely. Well, you can go to my website, weeklydebtplan.com. And I do have some resources available. I have some books. The first of all is the Money Snapshots, and it's 50 pages. This is kind of like your step on the scale. And I also have a financial journal that is 250 pages. So if you're ready to go down that rabbit hole and really work on how do I control my spending, that book is definitely what you want to work with in order to have those numbers and do the self-analysis. And of course, I'm always available for additional coaching sessions if you want to say, hey, you know what, Nancy, this is great. I love this, but I want to talk about my numbers and I need your help with the plan. I do have coaching packages as well.
All right. And what about on social media? What's the best place to find you?
Social media, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. My handle is Weekly Debt Plan, along with YouTube. On LinkedIn, I am Nancy Ward 1 because Nancy Ward is a very popular name. So when you go put in your link for LinkedIn, you can just look up Nancy Ward 1 as the address. So, or Nancy Ward Financial Coach. That should help with the CEO as well to find me.
Yes. Well, and that's how I found to get more information to get ready, besides of our connection and
Yes.
in various spaces. Well, Nancy, I thank you so much for your time and your sharing. Um,
Thank you for having me.
what I really love about what you're doing is that it's about the numbers, but it's about
Mhm.
more than that. It's
Yeah.
about believing in ourselves that we can get it under control, right?
Mhm.
I would even say most people don't really have a money problem. It's an identity problem masquerading, or uh, I can't think of the word, but it's basically coming out. It's the fruit is the money problem. It's not the root.
Yes.
And this, your weekly plan, the journal, they're they're not just a tool, they're a mirror
Mhm.
to actually see themselves as, I can do this, instead
Yep.
of the I'm bad with money,
And
right?
then leave it at
How many
that.
times how many times have you said that, right? Or heard that, I
Right, and
mean.
then they don't wanna do anything to make a change, and
Well, I'm just bad with money.
yeah, we all can be better, and there's just you just haven't hit the right tool yet.
Yes. And in the end, as we said, it's not about, like, there's not a magic wand. Neither one of us has that. It's going to take work, but by doing it weekly, getting those little wins, getting things under control bit by bit, it generates that momentum, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's small steps. Small steps turn into big results.
Right. Well, and it's all about education, isn't it? I saw this, I don't remember where this company was telling people, "Oh, we'll show you how to pay off your mortgage early,
Mhm.
through our program." And like I heard about it. I think one of my friends did the presentation, and I'm like, you can do that for free. They're going to charge you like a few $1,000s to do that. I said, put a 13th payment on your mortgage divided by 12, because they had that like this bi-weekly, oh, we'll set you up on bi-weekly mortgage payments and blah, blah, blah. And you'll save, you'll pay your mortgage off 5 years early or 10 years early. And I'm like, it's really simple. And it works on car loans and mortgages, all of it. You put extra, I love the snowball approach, right?
Yep.
Attack one, get it paid down, and then take the payment that would have gone to that and move it to the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But attacking it week by week is so powerful instead of trying to balance it and organize it at the end of the month.
Well, I'll give you a small little myth about what you just said, is that even if you take your payments for your house, the mortgage, and send it in half your payment a month, you have to make sure that you're giving that extra money as part of the principal. And even in my case, like with my mortgage, if I wanted to send an extra payment in, I almost have to go to the bank and tell them I want it to go to principal, because by default, your car payment and your mortgage payment will put that extra money towards interest, not towards the principal. When you send it in with the credit cards, it automatically goes to the principal. So just keep that little tip in mind, that people think they can send in a 13th payment, but it's probably going to go to the interest unless you specifically tell the bank you want it to go to principal. And that's how it's going to help you, because you're paying interest on the principal, not the other way around.
Right.
So,
yes. Well,
education.
And it is education. And to be honest, I've been out of the US for 12 years. So things shift, things change,
Yes, they do.
And of course, I also realize that, each state has its own rules.
Yes.
So what is true in Ohio isn't necessarily true in California.
Yeah.
I educate a lot of people with that because they're from China and Japan and they don't understand. I'm like, no, it's like 50 different countries with their own 50 different presidents. Like, yeah, we have one president representing the whole thing, but really it's 50 separate countries all doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If something landed for you, feel free to reach out to Nancy, check out her free resources or her paid resources. Thanks again, Nancy, for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.